Hey, thank you so much for booking a call. My team will be sending you an email reminder notification, so make sure to look for that so you can book it on your calendar. Now, I'm sure you have some questions leading into our conversation, so let's answer some of them right now. Here's a list of the 7 most common questions I get that I'm going to talk you through now so that we can maximize the time on our call together. Okay, so question number 1 is making private loans really a safe investment? Question 2, is this a long-term investment? Question 3, what are the rates of return your program offers? Question 4, can I use my IRA or 401k to make these loans? Question 5, is this a security or a mortgage pool? Question 6, how am I protected against fire? And question 7, how is this working for you, Chris? And then what I did was I added this should ask question. I think this is really a question more people should ask me that don't. And that question is, what makes this program unique? Okay, now before we jump into question 1 together, if you would please allow me to tell you a little bit more about me so you know who you're going to be talking to. Okay, so I graduated from the University of Nebraska with a degree in mechanical engineering. After college, I was nationally selected to be one of the 5 leadership consultants for a large collegiate leadership organization. Okay, my job was to travel to college campuses where I would coach men on how to live a character-driven life. I'm a former military officer who graduated at the top of the largest officer training school class in the history of the United States Air Force. One thing I'm most proud of from that chapter of my life is at the conclusion of officer training, I received the Colonel Dick Scobie Award for being the one officer trainee who was voted on by his peers as demonstrating the highest standard of character and integrity. I'm also a top-rated professor of leadership and peak performance from the University of Colorado Boulder. I am the co-founder of Creative Home Buying Experts and, of course, Creative Investing Club. Plus, I'm a leading expert on teaching private lenders how to get higher rates of return on their capital than they can probably get anywhere else. I currently live in Denver, Colorado with my wife, Andrea, who I met in a King Soopers grocery store. I have a daughter named Vivian Eve, who we call the Red Fox, and I have a son, Xavier Wolfgang, who we call the Wolf Pup. And then finally, many that know me would say I'm not shy about telling people that my best friend is Jesus. And when I'm not spending time with my family or my men's group, my passion is coaching people on how to become a private lender using our unique method in order to safely and securely get those predictable and higher rates of return on their investment capital so that they too can play the same game of spreads those big banks and Wall Street hedge funds are playing. So now that you know a little bit more about me, let's jump into the questions I typically get because I'm certain several of these are on your mind as well. So here's a common question I get. Is making private loans really a safe investment? Well, if you apply common sense and don't break the rules I have in place to protect you, it's as safe as any other high yield investment and a whole lot safer than most. In fact, in my opinion, it's a lot safer than the stock market. Just stop and think about it. With stocks, you're betting on companies you know very little about, and the volatility of the market is out of your control. You can do well one year and get totally wiped out the next. You know, every day you're wondering whether you're gaining or losing, going up and down. Is my stock increasing or is it decreasing? And the only choice you get to make is when you buy or when you sell. Now, that's risky in my book. And I don't care how good you are, the fact remains you don't get to make the rules in the stock market. Your investment is at the mercy of the ever-changing circumstances. Now, on the other hand, compare that to private lending on mortgage loans. With private lending, your return is fixed and won't change regardless of whether the market is up or down or sideways. While the stock market spirals downward and other investors are jumping out of the windows, you'll be smiling because today's fickle circumstances do not affect your money. You see, your loans are secured by real estate that you can see, and that real estate isn't going anywhere, regardless of what the stock market does. You have a large hedge factor to protect yourself if things don't go as planned. You get to make the rules, not be enslaved to somebody else's rules. Now, don't you like that? The term, the rate, and the conditions are what you and I say they are. There's no guesswork as to what's going to happen. I don't know of any other investment opportunity that gives the safety, the security, the predictability, the stability, the control, and high rate of return that private lending offers. And if the tools of cash flow and leverage are on your priority list for protecting and building your wealth, well then hopefully you can see this method of private lending is second to none. Okay, here's the next question I get. Is this a long-term investment? Well, that's up to you and me. And that's the beautiful part of this program. Most loans are interest only, and we do that to protect your principal. And most loans range from 1 year to 5-year balloons with all the principal due back to you when the property is sold. However, this can be arranged any way you want it to be arranged. It really comes down to whatever it takes to make your investment needs and your investment plan work. Of course, it's always important to consider the time value of money. You know, the longer the money stays out working for you at a higher rate of return, well, the faster it's going to grow for you. If it's interest only, like our program is, you're going to earn interest on the entire principal all the time. Now, if you were to get a little piece of the principal every month, like on an amortized loan, that little piece is no longer receiving a higher rate of return. And that's why most of my private lenders like to keep the money out and collect interest only or have it accrue interest. Okay, the next question we often get is what are the rates of return that we offer to our private lenders? So we've got this graphic here on the screen in front of you. I believe we put this graphic somewhere on this page for you to reference as well. But as you can see here, we like to keep it pretty simple. And we've got three different plans that you can choose from. You can see there the first plan is our Pro plan. We've then got our Elite plan, and we've got our VIP plan. And a lot of this is just really based on what your budget is and what percent return you really want to get. So you can see there at the pro level, the lending budget is between $100,000 and $499,000. And you can see the interest only payments on that are at 8% paid quarterly. The middle budget is $500,000 up to $1 million. And that's going to get you quarterly interest payments at 9%. And then you can see our VIP level is where you have the opportunity to very quickly get into the 100K plus per year club in predictable passive income with a budget between $1 million and $2.5 million with interest only payments at 10% paid out quarterly. And then if you've got a budget that's over $2.5 million, then just go ahead and contact me personally, and we can jump on a call and we can talk about what it would look like to very quickly put you into the $250,000 per year club in predictable passive income with options for equity positioning. And like I said, this chart is somewhere on this page, or at least it should be. And so if you want to review that later, you're welcome to do so. All right, another question I get is this. Can you use your IRA or 401k to make these loans? Well, the answer is absolutely yes. You bet you can. Okay. In fact, it's a great use for them. And what better way to go than tax deferred, or in the case of a Roth IRA, tax free? Now, if it's your IRA, it must be self-directed. Now, you might be asking, what is self-directed? Well, this is easy to accomplish, and it's only a matter of moving it to an administrator of your choice. And don't worry, this is not a rollover with penalties from the IRS. Okay, it's merely a transfer from your current administrator to another one. Now, if you're going to use your IRA to make loans, you'll find this a necessary step because most people have their IRAs housed with a company that will not allow them to make loans, or in fact, do any kind of investments other than what's on their list. We call those multiple choice IRAs, not truly self-directed IRAs. Now, if you're using a 401k, you absolutely must be in control. Okay, this is because you'll find it difficult to get your employer to direct a pension plan into private lending loans. These 401ks are usually managed by stockbrokers with set guidelines, and they'll do what they want to do, and you're not going to change their mind. However, if you have left a job or you're retired, well, that 401k belongs to you. And by law, your previous employer has to allow you to transfer it to a traditional IRA. You might want to consider the same thing if it applies to your circumstances and if your company plan doesn't have a history of a high rate of return that you're happy with. Okay, here's another question that I often get. Is this a security or a mortgage pool? Well, the answer is yes and no. Okay, technically, any debt instrument is a security, but it's not a security that you're going to need a license for or have to register with the SEC or anything like that. Okay, you will own the whole loan with no other participants. You will be in control, like we discussed, like the banks, all the way, which in itself makes this a better investment than any other vehicle I know. And so only when loans are pooled does it become a security, and that's not what we are doing here. What we are doing is we are making low loan-to-value, or LTV loans, secured to single-family houses. For example, let's talk numbers. Let's say I've got a property I found, and let's say the property's after repair value, the ARV, is $100,000. I'm not going to allow my investors to invest more than $75,000. Now, this policy we operate by on all our deals ensures the loan is well secured because the total loan-to-value ratio does not exceed 75% of the after repaired value of the property. And that's how our private lenders get safe and secure returns higher than most people can get anywhere else. And your peace of mind comes from knowing this method of private lending is much more predictable than the volatility and lack of control experienced in the stock market. Okay, here's another question I get. How am I protected against fire loss and making sure the title is clear of any other liens? Okay, first of all, I purchase title insurance as part of the closing cost on all purchases. Now, this ensures we have a clear and clean deed, and it will be issued naming you, the lender, as the insured. Now, I do this to protect you against title defects, which obviously could affect your collateral. Plus, I purchase fire insurance as part of the closing cost. I want the fire insurance company to name you the lender right on the policy. So if the house burns down or whatever act of God takes it out, you get a check for the full amount of your loan. Again, the real estate attorney and the title company, they represent you and they make all this easy for you and ensures proper execution. Great. Now, another question I get is, Chris, how is this, world of private lending, how's it working for you? Well, right now I'm personally making over $12,000 a month in passive income with nearly $1 million in equity. And when I retire 14 years from now at 59 and a half, I'll be getting a minimum of $50,000 a month in predictable passive income, and I'll have over $20 million in cash and equity. Now, I don't share those numbers to brag, but simply to show you that I practice what I teach. Okay, so the last question that I don't get very often, which is why I've labeled this a should ask question, but I think it's a question more people should be asking, is this: what makes your program unique? Now, the answer to that question is the new method that I've been referring to. Okay, it's a method we have uniquely designed over the last several years from testing several different methods to figure out what works best when it comes to private lending. And I'm not just talking about small testing. We've tested over $5 million and counting through this method. So we know it not only works, but that it works extremely well. In fact, as you can probably guess, our method is built on the foundation of safety, security, and long-term cash flow. And I love the term cash flow. It's something I, as an investor, have been involved in for many years. In fact, the person who really coined the term and made it famous in today's world is Robert Kiyosaki. And one of my mentors, his name is John, and he's been investing since the 80s. He's one person who taught me how to successfully set up and run the long-term cash flow model. Cool thing about learning from John is that he's the guy who did all of Robert Kiyosaki's real estate for him behind the scenes. And thanks to John, Robert owns hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate, and as you can imagine, generates large sums of long-term cash flow every single month, just like the banks and Wall Street hedge funds. And another great thing my investors have found about the long-term cash flow program is that we don't have to get distracted by any of these high-risk, flipping, short-term, too good to be true, get-rich-quick schemes. Like you see on all those house flipping shows on TV. Okay, so here's how to best understand the home matchmaker method difference. First, there are 5 main problems to solve in any real estate deal. And it's important to understand there is a big difference between buying a property and buying a deal. Anyone can buy a property, but it takes specialized knowledge and skill to first find and then buy a deal. And that's what we are best at. So private lending works best when you buy a deal. In fact, there are 5 unique problems that need to be solved in order to make it all work. And here they are. Problem number 1, who has the deal? Problem number 2, who has the buyer? Problem number 3, who has the expertise? Problem number 4, who has the time? And then problem number 5, who has the money? Now, private lending works incredibly well when those 5 problems are solved. And the good news is my job is to solve the first 4 problems. Our private lender's job is to solve the money problem. Now, when it comes to private lending and serving our clients, this is our mantra. You can get everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. This is what we focus on every day in our business, helping the 3 key people involved in the home matchmaker method get what they want. And here's what that looks like. So person number 1 is the private lender. This would be you. And from our experience, here's what most of our private lenders want. They want safety, security, long-term cash flow, tax benefits, higher rates of return, and capital growth. Okay. Person number 2 is going to be the seller. And what does the seller want? Well, they often want fast cash. They want a fast close. They want no rehab. They want no hassle, and they want it to be hands off. And then you got person number 3, the buyer. And what does the buyer want? The buyer wants to own their dream home, and the buyer wants to avoid the hassle with banks. Now, my job is to leverage the time and expertise of our team to find the deal, to find the buyer, to find the private lender, and then help the private lender open a self-directed IRA account if required, or just answer their money management questions in general. And then after that, we work with the title company and real estate lawyers to make sure the money and the paperwork is in place so that everyone is protected and gets what they want. And when that happens, our company gets what we want too. Well, hopefully now you can see that with the home matchmaker method, everybody wins in the exact way they want to win that's best for them. Okay, great. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more about private lending. I hope this has all been valuable to you, and I really look forward to our one-on-one strategy session. Now, before I let you go, here's my personal cell phone. Feel free to write that number down. If anything comes up and you need to reschedule, would you please give me the professional courtesy of texting to reschedule so that I can open up your spot for someone else? That would be greatly appreciated. Okay, let me close with this thought from Henry Ford, who said, "It is well enough that people of our nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I believe there would be a revolution by tomorrow morning." What was Henry Ford talking about? Well, he was talking about the cash flow and leverage banks and now Wall Street hedge funds use to safely and securely get higher returns without playing the markets, and not to mention doing it with other people's money. Well, the good news is now you've got the banker's secret blueprint for playing the game of spreads to build wealth. The only question left to answer is, now that you know, what will you do? Well, I look forward to talking through those options with you on our call. Thanks for your trust. I don't take it for granted. Bye for now.